Mathematics at Innit College, a YouTube channel for high school mathematics education. Mathematics 4, Swedish High School Education System. The Chain Rule. Hi, this is Babak. In this video I'm going to solve the following problem for you. Let f be a function that is differentiable on R, such that f of 0 is equal to minus 1, f prime of 0 is equal to 1. Consider the function g defined by g of x equals to f of x squared plus f of 2 times f of x plus 2 cubed. Determine g prime of 0. I recommend you to pause the video at this point and first try to solve the problem yourself. If you do everything correctly, the answer that you will get at the end should be g prime of 0 is equal to 4. Okay, now let us solve this problem. The main idea of this problem is using the chain rule in an appropriate way. So let me just remind you of the chain rule here. So if I have the composition of two functions, f acting after function g, and then you are interested to take the derivative of this combination, I'm not just mentioning, this is just a generic f and a generic g. I'm not just referring to these functions that you see here. I'm just writing the general formula for the chain rule. This tells you that if you want to calculate this, you can calculate the derivative of f, the outer function. This function is the outer function and this function is the inner function. You calculate the derivative of the outer function, but you calculate it at the inner function, and then you multiply it by the derivative of the inner function. So this is the formula that you have for the chain rule. Okay. But let us now see how we can use this idea, this formula, to solve our problem. So here we are interested in calculating g prime of 0. So you know that if you want to calculate the derivative of a function at a given number, first you need to differentiate that function and find its derivative. After the derivative is found, you replace the x in the derivative with the given number, and then you calculate the number that you get. That would be the derivative of your function at the given number. So this means that first of all, I have to focus and to try to differentiate function g. But of course, g is defined in terms of f, so I have to differentiate the right-hand side. So, okay, g prime of x would be equal to the derivative of this combination, f of x to the 2 plus f of 2 f of x, and then plus 2 cubed, and then I want to take the derivative of this one. So this is a fairly complicated problem, so let me just be patient and do it step by step. Okay, so here you see that the sum of two functions involved. The first rule that you have to apply is the sum rule. The sum rule tells you that if you want to differentiate the sum of two functions, differentiate each function separately and then add the derivatives. Okay, so the first step is I am using the sum rule. So this becomes f of x to the 2, and then I want to differentiate this part, plus I have f of 2f of x plus 2 totally cubed, and I want to differentiate this. Okay, now the derivative of a function of x squared is, according to the chain rule, it becomes 2 the function f of x, but it is not finished. You have to multiply it by the derivative of the base, which is this one. And the same is true for here. So here you can consider this to be u. According to the chain rule, if I have u to the power of 3, if I want to differentiate it, it becomes 3u to the 2, but then I have to multiply it by u prime. So that's the idea for the chain rule. So if you have x to the 3 prime, this becomes 3x squared multiplied by x prime, which indeed is 1, so this is why you don't write it. But if x is replaced with a function of x, then you have to use this idea. Okay? So what I can do, I can write 3, and then I would write my u, which is the whole expression, yes, to the power of 2, but it is not finished. I have to multiply it by the derivative of this function. Okay? So what you see is that everything here is done. Here there is no prime left, but here this can be continued. So this means that these parts I have to copy and paste them. So this becomes 2f of x multiplied by f prime of x plus 3 times f of 2f of x plus 2, and then squared. But then if I want to differentiate this function, this is a function of u. Yes, so if I want to differentiate it, this is the inner function, this is the other function. So according to the chain rule, I differentiate the other function, calculate it at the inner function, and then I have to remember to multiply by the derivative of the inner function. Okay? But this one we can continue this one a little bit more. So let me write finally. So therefore, g prime of x, which we were calculating, is 2 times f of x times f prime of x plus 3 times f of 2f of x plus 2 squared f prime of 2f of x plus 2. And then if you differentiate this, this becomes the derivative of the first part, which is just simply 2f prime of x, and the derivative of 2, which is 0. So I just simply write 2f prime of x, that multiplied by 2f prime of x. So this long formula is actually the derivative of the function g. But now I am supposed to calculate g prime at point 0. So it means that I need to replace every x with 0. The left hand side becomes g prime of 0, which is actually wanted. The right hand side becomes 2f of 0, f prime of 0, plus 3 times f of 2f of 0 plus 2 squared f prime of 2f of 0 plus 2 multiplied by 2f prime of 0. And then I have to use what is given in the problem. Yes? So what is given in the problem? f0 is minus 1, f prime of 0 is 1. So let me substitute. So this becomes equal 2 times, instead of this f of 0 that you see here, I put negative 1. Instead of f prime of 0 here that you see, I put 1. So let me write it patiently. So it becomes negative 1 multiplied by 1 plus 3 times. I have f, but let us see what happens here inside. Yes, here f of 0 is given to be minus 1. So when I put minus 1 here, 2 times minus 1 is minus 2 plus 2 is 0. So this becomes f of 0. So let me do it step by step. It becomes f of 0 squared. The next one the same. It is f prime. So I am just writing f prime here. Again, instead of f of 0, I put minus 1. 2 times minus 1 is minus 2. Minus 2 plus 2 is 0. So this becomes f prime of 0. Multiplied by 2f prime of 0. But now, again, you see that this problem is involved with f0, f of 0, and f prime of 0. So f of 0 is here. F prime of 0 appears here and there. So f prime of 0 is just simply 1. So this expression is 1. That is also 1. So if I multiply, this combination becomes just simply 2. But f of 0 is -1, but -1 to power 2 is also 1. So finally, what I get is 2 times -1 times 1, it's -2, and then I will have plus 3 minus 1 to power 2 multiplied by 1 multiplied by 2 times 1. So if you calculate this, this is -2 plus 6, and then the answer is 4. So g prime of 0 is eventually equal to 4. Yes? Okay, so this was a fairly complicated problem related to the chain rule. You have to be quite experienced to be able to do this, but I think it is doable. I will put the link to this PDF file that you see here below this video in the description. You can find the link there. And I will also put the link of my lectures regarding the chain rule. If you find this problem hard and you have some problems understanding it, I really recommend you to watch those videos first, because mastering the techniques and ideas behind the chain rule is actually a very important concept, a very important tool in your hand if you want to study higher mathematics, especially in calculus. Okay? So I hope that this video has been useful for you. Until the next video, be safe and goodbye.